Welcome to the excellent students in the 897 Experience DMin Project Design. This is your instructor, Dr. Larry Asplund, coming to you to just welcome you to Module 2. So we had a couple of weeks, in Module 1 where we were dealing with very, very important introductory matters that, most of the rest of what we are going to do together depend on. And so now we are jumping into kind of the second step of our process. Module 2, of course, this is week 3 overall, but Module 2 is a 3-week module, a very, very important development of a major section of your proposal. So you remember in Module 1, we had a focus on your thesis question, specifically your statement of the problem question. In week 1, there was a peer review opportunity. That is to say, you were to submit your statement of the problem question, and then have an opportunity to interact with one another, which was very, very helpful. And of course, our purpose, I'm confident that you know what your research focus is. Our purpose is to really finesse a single sentence that says everything as clearly and as precisely and as succinctly as possible. And so we had the opportunity to work together on that last week. And then week 2, we're still kind of finishing up the annotated bibliography. This has to do with setting the stage for what we will accomplish together in Module 2. And so far, I just love the work that I see you doing. And it really is creating a context in which you can do some excellent work in Module 2. So Module 2, as I mentioned, is a 3-week module. It is all about the summary of the literature. And so you did some work in PMIN897. We called it variously a review of the literature, or in the very last exercise, a summary of the literature. It was more general. It was not as specifically focused as what we are doing together for the final proposal. So in the very first week, week 3, which is where we are here, you will continue to prepare all that you need to do to write. The second week, there will be an outline, the summary of the literature outline, which we will work on together, which will be very, very important. And then finally, you will compose at least the draft of your summary of the literature in the third week of that module, of Module 2. And it will be a process really of combining together the key sources that you discovered in your annotated bibliography along with your outline to be able to produce that summary of the literature. But we'll go over that very specifically as we get there. Week 3, you're going to basically continue adding to your working bibliography, kind of do some reading as well, taking notes, exploring in greater depth maybe some of the sources that you identified in your annotated bibliography. We will be able to consult some specific sources that will be helpful to you. Turabian chapters 3 and 4, you remember the first half of the Turabian text is all about academic research and writing, so there's some very helpful chapters there. Creswell is probably our primary research methodology source. Chapters 2 to 4 will be helpful for you this week. Sensing, as you know, is all about a specific application to doctorate ministry students. Chapter 2 will be helpful. We have resources from PMIN897. I'm continuing to follow up on them. I think we will look more specifically about what we can and cannot do when it comes to the review, basically, of a lot of the content from PMIN897. But it's there for you, available for sure. All of those foundational documents now have been replaced with the original copies and are available to you. In terms of our activities in Module 2, we will start with a Zoom meeting. So the second Zoom meeting will be on Tuesday, May the 23rd, 8:00 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'll have more to say about that here in a moment. We had, I thought, a great Zoom meeting first time around when we were looking at the statement of the problem question. And this one, we will unpack in greater detail the whole issue of the summary of the literature and try to focus it in context of the entire final proposal and give you a sense as we go along as to how that is unfolding for us. Week 4 will be the outline, the summary of the literature outline, which will take place in your group as a discussion forum. Of course, we're using the discussion forum basically for the 3 peer review opportunities as well. And then in week 5, there will be the actual composition of your summary of the literature. And that's the first big piece of writing that you will be doing in this class. So it will be significantly about not only your research and the organization of your research, but Turabian, etc. So that will happen in week 5. So Tuesday night, May the 23rd, 8:00 p.m. Eastern Time, we learned some things about how Zoom is working on Canvas the first time around. So you remember, all of us have a Regent Zoom account. Now, you may have your own personal Zoom account. I have my own personal Zoom account, which I use in other settings. I will, if you and I ever decide as an individual, you may want to have a Zoom meeting where we can look at one of your documents together and kind of work on a couple of things together. I will use my personal Zoom account for that. I'm getting ready to welcome 4 new 899 students. I will use my personal Zoom account for that. But when it comes to our official, even though this is not a graded assignment, when it comes to our official course meetings, we need to do that in the context of our Regent Zoom account. And so activating it, so far as I can tell, activating your Regent Zoom account the first time is all you will need to do. After that, you can automatically go to the Canvas link and it will access your Regent Zoom account. When we're all using our Regent Zoom account, then it really is slick because it provides some excellent kind of features behind it, reports. It gives us the video recording, automatically records. I don't have to start the recording. It gives us other reports as well that are very helpful for us, actually. And so make sure, if you've not already done so, to activate your Regent Zoom account, and then you should be able to just go in and click the Zoom link in our class, and it will take you to your Regent Zoom account, and we'll all be on, together where we ought to be. And so on Tuesday night, we'll be looking at our progress reports. Basically, how's it going for you so far? We will then specifically unpack the summary of the literature process, which we will be doing together in Module 2, and find out if you have any questions along the way. Is there anything I can do to help you? Of course, that's always true. So I'm always open to assisting you and serving you any way I can. But we'll take some time on Tuesday night to do that together in a face-to-face sort of way, and I'll be able to encourage one another and pray for each other as well. Just to look ahead, summarizing modules 2 and 3, these are the 2 3-week modules. They deal with the 2 major sections of your proposal. Now, again, in PMIN897, you did kind of a more general review of the literature, etc. But we are unpacking it in 2 pieces. That's what's unique for us in this class and was not a part of PMIN897. So there will be a summary of the literature section, and then there will be the biblical, theological, and historical foundations section of the proposal. Essentially, you will take apart your research and put them in 2 piles, in 2 contexts, and then you'll use them to write 2 introductory sections in your proposal. So I kind of wanted to describe it for you. All relevant research is reported in chapters 2 of your dissertation, a survey of the literature, and 3, the 2 together, of your dissertation, biblical, theological, and historical context of the study. And once you get to writing chapters, they will be usually at least 30 pages long. I mean, that's a pretty good rule of thumb, as a matter of fact. So what we're doing in the proposal is summarizing. It's an introduction, essentially, to those 2 chapters. And so there will be a summary in your proposal, the 2 chapters presented in the 2 sections. The first one we'll start working on now, the summary of the literature section and the biblical, theological, and historical foundations section. I usually just refer to them as the BTH foundations section. Usually, and the rule of thumb for them is a minimum of 10 pages, citing a minimum of 10 sources. They can be longer, probably should not be shorter. But again, they're introducing what you will eventually unpack much more fully in the chapters of your dissertation. My recommendation to you is, you have research notes. You've been reading, taking notes as you go along. Begin now to separate them out into 2 parts. So divide your research notes between 1, relevant resources in the scholarly literature, and that's what we will end up focusing on in module 2. And then those that are relevant to biblical studies, Christian theology, and church history. And there can be some overlap, but I think our challenge, our goal is to separate them out as much as we can. So the review of the scholarly literature is what you would do in a PhD dissertation. The BTH, context in chapter 3 and the foundations in your chapter 1, really your proposal, is unique to the Doctor of Ministry dissertation because it is a theological, it's a seminary doctorate specifically. And so I recommend that you begin to separate out those in your notes as much as you possibly can. Inevitably, I will say, save this for the BTH foundations. You really need to focus on the scholarly literature when it comes to the survey of the literature section in the proposal. Now, remember, we kind of touched on this briefly, so I'm not going to take much time. When we were together before, the scholarly or academic literature is clearly defined. So when it comes to books, they are academic monographs. A monograph is an academic book that just focuses on a single subject. So it's not a larger reference work. It's not a popular work, devotional or whatever. It is an academic book with a focus on a single subject. Peer-reviewed journal articles are always considered scholarly literature. Doctoral dissertations are always considered scholarly literature. So you're going to end up focusing very narrowly in the next couple of weeks on this kind of literature. It needs to be literature that is either directly relevant to your discipline, we would call it discipline specific, or sources indirectly relevant in the cross-disciplinary literature. So you will find there's some relevant literature kind of over here on the side that also sets the foundation for your project. All of this is about creating a research-based foundation for your project. And so some may be on the side that's still relevant. It's not directly a focus on your project, but has relevant information. And so you will present that as well, again, in an introductory fashion in your proposal, and ultimately in chapter 2. So we're going to be working together on that. I'll have more to say about it in our Zoom meeting on Tuesday night. So being able to take the time to, get into the library as you have done, explore what's there, kind of keep up with it, because this is a bit of a work in progress. You are going to be jumping ultimately into PMIN897 with your chair, and he or she may say, have you noticed there's a recent article that's very much about what you're doing? I recommend you take a look at it. So, there's new stuff all the time. So it's a bit of a work in progress. This is your introduction. And so it's not your final version by any means. It's just your introduction. But it's a very, very important step. And it's one that will help you tremendously when you begin ultimately to write your dissertation. So I look forward to being together with you on Tuesday night. As always, I am here to serve you. It is an honor to do so. So God bless you, everybody. Just have a great week.